It's the Auburn Observer Podcast, the first game recap edition of football season. This ought to be a fun one. Justin Ferguson here, joined by my co-pilot per usual, Dan Peck. Hello, Daniel, and howdy after our travels from the great state of Texas.
Howdy indeed. Ahoy, Justin. Good to see you again after, it's not that long. I was right behind you there in the press box in Waco. Big thanks to Wings 94.3 for letting us use the studio. That's where we're recording today. Wings 94.3 is your home for Auburn University athletics in the Auburn-Opelika area. Football, men's basketball, baseball, Tiger Talk, which you can catch on Mondays. Auburn High School football as well on Wings 94.3. It's also the classic hit station in the Auburn-Opelika area. Supertramp, The Cars, Def Leppard coming up if you're listening right now to Wings 94.3. So we really appreciate that they let us use the studio. Oh, you know what else? Shout out to the Peck Pack. You know, I shouted out the sickos when we started a previous episode, a recent episode, for hanging with us all off season, and yeah, big shout out as always to the Peck Pack.
So Dan, I thought it was very fitting. We will get to this later, but the Cars coming up. The Cars, the favorite band of one Gus Malzahn.
Oh yeah,
we will be talking about him later on in the show for sure, but.
And Auburn, of course, has had some cars themselves, right? They've had a Cadillac. Mm-hmm. They've had, I guess a tank is kind of cheating, but yeah. And now maybe an Alston Martin, possibly in the driveway.
Is it Alston Martin or is it? I saw people are trying to do like the Damari Ferrari kind of.
You know, I think
I like the Alston Martin.
I think I like Alston Martin a little bit more. Smooth.
We're going to recap Auburn 38, Baylor 24, big opening week win for the Tigers. Dan and I are recording this on Sunday. You will hear this sometime Sunday. We're going to try to get it up as quickly as possible. Both of us travel back from the DFW area, and we'll talk about our time in Waco and all that later on in the show. But we want to get this out to you as quickly as possible. And I think during the season, we're going to try to hit these on Sundays. You'll probably catch these on Sunday afternoons most of the time. These recap episodes will probably come out on Sunday afternoon. So even though this game was played on Friday night, we'll time it up that way or try to do it as best as we can throughout the season. All right, Dan, Auburn 38, Baylor 24. Before we dive into the four things, our observe fours, our quad observers for each of us from this game that we want to talk about, generally off the top, Big road win for Auburn. I mean, the fact that this was Auburn's first, like if Baylor finishes with a winning record this season, which I think is a good shot at doing so. If Baylor finishes with a winning record this season, this will be the first time Auburn has beaten a team like that on the road in several years, since I believe it's 2021, with the Arkansas win, really the last good win under Brian Harsin.
You can feel confident about the fact that Baylor seems to have some potent weapons. I feel like trying to predict the Big 12 right now is a fool's errand, right? Because I don't know.
I think Baylor's defense might be really bad.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that.
And you know what? And I don't think they were in a position to lose one of their best defensive linemen really early in that game on Friday. And I don't think that's the reason Auburn had that kind of success on the ground. I think it probably
definitely helped.
It helped for Auburn. And it was a different Baylor defense after he left the game, although you also saw Auburn just continue to apply pressure.
Yeah, 24 points allowed. We'll talk about the defense because there was a lot to improve on the defense. There's even a good bit to improve on the offense too. I thought, though, Dan, it was one of those games where you get to the end of it and you look back and say, hey, you beat a quality opponent by 2 touchdowns on the road. Hadn't done that in a while. And additionally, you're coming out of this game thinking, oh, Auburn didn't play their peak. They didn't play the perfect game. They have a lot they can improve from this game, and they still went out and beat a pretty good team away from home. That's an ideal week 1 win, right? Of course, if they'd have came in and blown the doors off of them, right, and like just looked like a machine, we'd have a different conversation today. But I do think anything short of just beating the tar out of a really good team, this is one where Auburn can come out of this saying, and Hugh Freeze even said it after the game, we were in the press conference saying, like, we think we can play a lot better. Well, getting 38 on the road, holding a good offense to 24 in a road game where you haven't done this in a while it's significant. It is significant for week 1, especially looking around the rest of week 1 in college football.
Yeah, and Hugh Freeze has talked about the importance of confidence a lot this offseason, both with individual players and I think with his locker room in general. Who knows what kind of damage those losses last season did to the confidence of that team. I think things can snowball, and losing to Cal probably didn't help you against Arkansas 2 weeks later. Ideally you learn from losses and you learn the right lessons and you move forward. I think in the case of Auburn, it was just, the body blows of Cal and then Arkansas and then Oklahoma and then Missouri last season. It probably did a number on Hugh, and Hugh Freeze saw it in his locker room. He's talked a lot about wanting to help this team's confidence as much as he can. This win avoids the damage to the confidence that a loss would have inflicted. And now you've got 2 games to get ready and watch a little bit more of Oklahoma and learn a little bit more about them before that big showdown in a couple of weeks in Norman. Yeah. But in the meantime,
fix yourself.
The afterglow of this victory, the fact that you get to, it's
huge.
It's huge for this team.
It's huge. And I think, I was talking about it.
They beat Cal 2 years ago, right? In Berkeley.
Very different circumstances.
And they didn't, and you could not have come out of, it's significantly different because I don't know how much confidence, even in victory, they had coming back from Berkeley, thinking, are they ready to play an SEC schedule after that performance, even though they won?
Right.
As opposed to what you saw Friday night, which feels a little bit more sustainable if you're, as you play some other quality opponents.
At least a little bit more substantial. I just think the vibes-wise for this game, Yeah,
I guess you could sustain what they did 2 years ago.
Yeah, you could, and they did. I think the thing with this game is the way it happened, and we'll get into it, was such a difference from what we saw throughout last season from Auburn that I think that is really significant. And also just vibes-wise. We talked about how week 1 was, this opener against Baylor was important because what it could mean, right? You lose this one, now there's even more pressure on A&M and Oklahoma on the road, and, those are really, really good games. In Georgia coming up, the pressure really, really ratchets up. You don't want to play too far ahead every week. You got to take it 1 week at a time. But you look at this now, Dan, and you look at a scenario that if you go beat Baylor on the road, you play Oklahoma and A&M in a couple weeks. If you take one of those games, you're talking about potentially just a one-loss team facing Georgia in a big game, big night game at Jordan-Hare. That's a really good scenario to set up for.
I'll tell you something else about those Oklahoma and A&M games is that Auburn has already played their major conference, non-conference opponent.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's got Michigan on Saturday. A&M goes to Notre Dame in a couple of weeks. Those games are not the kind of games where you can – it's not as though either of those teams can play all their cards close to the vest and then open things up against Auburn.
Right.
You've got to show something against – Brent Venables is not in a position to lose that Michigan game after the season he had last year. No. And then and I think Jackson Arnold looking kind of sharp only ratchets things up on, hey, you better have fixed things.
Material looked good yesterday. It was an FCS opponent, but I thought Material looked good.
No, I think that game next week with Oklahoma is one of the more interesting ones on the
Oklahoma Michigan.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma Michigan's really interesting, and the fact that, and then I think it's also true with A&M and Notre Dame.
And we talked about it though. If Auburn loses this game, you spend the next 2 weeks against Ball State and South Alabama, and it's you got to fix stuff, but the tone would not be great at all. And again, Auburn has not arrived. Beating Baylor by 2 touchdowns doesn't guarantee anything moving forward, right? You got to take it one game at a time. But yet, now you get the next 2 weeks where you get to work on yourself, and you're going to have a pretty jacked up crowd Saturday night when they play Ball State.
A week 1 loss is a real pipe bomb, right? Right.
Well, you've waited so long, right? Yeah. I think it's even better to, it's even more. I guess it's even more acceptable to do it in week 2 or week 3. And when teams play these big games in week 1, it's great. This is the biggest week 1 ever, right, in college football, in terms of the matchups that they had. However, if you take that punch early, it's okay, how do you react to it? And it's such prone to overreaction. Week 1 is built for overreactions that it could get really tough. But the main thing right here before we break into the game itself is that Auburn gets a win, and there's momentum, and there's good feeling, and there's a thought that, okay, some of the stuff that you talked about in the preseason that you thought you would be able to do and that you had changed and improved, you showed some of that against Baylor, and that's what you're going to need. And there's potential. There's a ton of hidden potential in that. moving forward that they can still get up to. All right, our fours. We're going to start with the big one for me. Dan, I said it all last week, said it in the game preview podcast. I thought the team that ran the ball was going to win this game. Auburn, 307 rushing yards, Baylor, 64 rushing yards. This one, I mean, that prediction rang true pretty quickly in this game because it was the tone of the game. Like, the story of this football game was that Auburn ran the dang ball over and over and over again. And I think in a very opposite reaction to what they did several times last season, Oklahoma is probably the biggest example of this, maybe the Missouri game as well. Auburn stuck to what was working, and they were content to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and resist the siren song of throw the thing. They took what the defense gave them. We had talked about that all offseason. There's a lot of excitement around Jackson Arnold. There's a lot of excitement out of those receivers. And look, man, Cam Coleman had 1 catch. Eric Singleton had 3. This was not a big day. Only 108 passing yards in this game. If you're a box score watcher,
although I liked both of those. I mean, you think about the Coleman catch is that over the middle, and then that Singleton. Well, because we're going to talk a lot more about running. That Singleton play with Horatio in front of him, that stack, I like that too. Because Horatio,
it's a fun one. It's a fun one. But it didn't matter because you ran the ball 300 plus yards. And it was so not what we have seen from Auburn recently, and so not what we've seen from Hugh Freeze, but it was vintage Auburn. It was classic Auburn. We talked about it in the observations that went out on Saturday. Damari Alston says it as he's walking out of the press conference after the game, the interviews after the game on Friday night. He said, yelling at Connor Lew, there's 3 things: death, taxes, and Auburn's going to run the ball. And we saw that in this game. Once Auburn established the fact that they were going to be able to run that ball, they leaned on it, and I thought that was a big thing. They could throw it. They didn't have to. Meanwhile, Baylor threw the ball all over the yard and had a lot of success, and we'll talk about the struggles Auburn had there in defending that. But this game is about finishing drives. How about this? You get into a scenario where Auburn goes perfect in the red zone. Baylor goes 3 for 5. They get stopped inside the 5 on 4th down twice, right? They get stopped on a 4th down again. And I think part of it is Auburn took full advantage of finishing their drives, doing the thing they did not do last season, which is when you have scoring opportunities, turn those things into touchdowns. And they did kick 1 field goal in this game, which, I mean, we can talk about that. But, Dan, it's just they did the thing that they didn't do last season. I think a lot of it comes back to they ran the ball. They ran the ball. This was a team that struggled so much in the red zone last year because they couldn't run the ball. And I think on the flip side, because Baylor couldn't run the ball, it got tougher and tougher once the field shrunk for them to finish off those drives, whereas Auburn could say, we're just going to throw the hammer at them. And in this case, they had, I would say, 3 hammers in Jackson Arnold, Damari Alston, and Jeremiah Cobb, all played really, really well and ran the ball physically.
That 12-play touchdown drive, the first touchdown drive of the game for Auburn,
yes,
with 60-plus yards on the ground, including the Jackson Arnold touchdown.
What a drive that starts at the 4.
Yeah, a drive that starts at the 4, starts with the defense turning them away in the red zone, and I thought that drive was, I'm curious to know from you how much of Auburn's success you thought was the offensive line consistently winning matchups and being able to do that, and how much of it was Baylor's respect for the receivers and the Auburn passing game. Hugh Freeze mentioned.
Can I say both?
Yeah, because I think that they both played a huge role, but it's like that Auburn offensive line seemed to, from that drive, starting with that touchdown drive, Auburn's offensive line seems to consistently win at the line of scrimmage when Auburn wants to run the ball, and Baylor, I think as badly as they wanted to cheat up and help, they recognize that it's never been harder to do that against Auburn because of Cam Coleman and Malcolm Simmons and Eric Singleton and Horatio Fields and the weapons Auburn has on the outside that can potentially go for a huge play if you gamble wrong in that situation.
So I am breaking down the running game for a film room-ish piece that hopefully will go up sometime on Sunday. It might already be out by the time you're listening to this, depending on when you listen to it. Before we came up here to the studio to record, I'd gotten done with the first half, rewatching the first half from Auburn's offense, and there are 20 runs in that first half from Auburn, like design runs, not scrambles, or at least options where they kept the ball. And I think Baylor's in too high the whole time. And after the game, they talked about it. It's like, basically if you show too high safeties, it's box count. And it's ironic because,
they had a guy above Singleton pretty much the entire. I started noticing.
Baylor.
A couple drives in.
Baylor. Baylor did the gold helmets, brought that back. They had Bryce Petty do basically their honorary Mike Man, whatever they call that before the game, and it was a lot of 2010s love. RG3 was on the call in the game. By the way, I'm rewatching the game. I thought RG3 was good. I'm not listening to the entire game, and I thought RG3 had some really good insights.
Fox sometimes has some additional flair to their college football broadcast that I think doesn't really need to be there. No, I've always thought RG3 when doing analysis during a football game,
he's really good at breaking down quarterbacks.
Yeah, I've always,
which makes sense. I mean, he was a fantastic college quarterback. I think when you look at
stellar rookie season too in Washington,
100%.
Great job, Mike Shanahan.
But when you look at what Auburn was able to do in this game, it was a lot of just Baylor sat too high up, and it's box count, and it's ironic. It's a little bit ironic because there was a lot of 2010 stuff. Baylor got going in their modern era of football, running this veer and shoot system. And it spawned so many, the tree's huge off of it, and there's so many different variations of it now, where a lot of what Baylor used to do back in the day was before the snap, the quarterback looks and says, all right, here's how many blockers I have, here's how many guys they got in the box, and if it's even, we're running this thing. And if they're rolling it down, if they have more in the box than we do, we'll throw it. Auburn did this the whole game to Baylor, and I thought it was so weird that we talked about this last week. Dave Aranda coming out and saying, hey, we got to stop the run. But, I'll watch the second half and see how much they adjusted. It didn't feel like a lot. It felt like they were so scared of Cam Coleman beating them over the top, or Eric Singleton, or any of the other Auburn wide receivers, that they were willing to sit too high. And so what they were doing is Auburn was always having either a match or sometimes even a little bit of an advantage in the box. And all you got to do is if your offensive line just does their job, just gets in the way, you can move. And you get and it's punches, it's body blows over and over again. One of the criticisms I had from Auburn's offense last season was they were so explosive, but there wasn't really much efficiency, right? We'll talk about the Florida State-Alabama game. One of the things that Gus Malzahn did really well, and Florida State did in that game, was they were just punching Alabama over and over again. Game on paper, I thought this was a crazy stat. If you take out explosive plays in this game, Auburn's EPA was still 4. Yeah. Baylor's was negative 14. Like it was all explosiveness, all, sizzle. For Auburn, it was just it was a ton of steak, very fitting to be in Texas. It was a ton of Texas beef, just hammering away at it, and it worked. And it kept working, and it kept working. And again, as long as your offensive line does your job and your quarterback makes the right decisions and your running backs run hard, you can roll up a team like that until they adjust, and they never really did in this game.
And you can wonder if it'll work against a better opponent. I would point out Jackson Arnold ran it pretty effectively against Alabama last season.
We'll now question if Alabama can defend the run, though.
I think there's a separate point we can make at some. No, and I think the explosive plays in the run game, let's say all of them came from Jackson, right? Because the running backs, I believe the longest run either Cobb or Damari has all night is 11 yards. And the thought that those guys combined you're talking, is it 32 carries combined for 158?
Mm-hmm.
With the longest one of them all being 11.
Yep.
That is a pair of sledgehammers. Just over and over again.
And there's a lot of 5s and 6s, they're hitting singles.
And we talked about the offense avoiding second and long and third and long and being able to stay on schedule. When you can consistently get that kind of production out of your running backs, when a defense is allowing that without making significant changes out of respect for your perimeter game,
right?
Out of respect for if they do that, they're not really helping their chances of victory because of what it opens up for Jackson and the receivers. That really puts a defense in a tough spot because they almost choose how they're going to lose.
Auburn faced third and long twice all game.
Isn't one of them the drive with the two penalties on the offensive line? Like, isn't one where you have a
no, because they convert on second down.
Oh, that's right. You're right. That's a second down. So I mean,
Baylor faced third and long 6 times and only converted once. And on top of that, Auburn's average yards per play on
it's third and 10 on the first drive. That's one of them.
Right. Yeah. Auburn's average yards per play on first down was 6.4. And that's what you got to do. That's what you have to do in a game like this. So again, we can get into the finer details of it, but right off the bat, we said it. I said it last week. Like, I thought whoever ran the ball and prevented the other team from running was going to win this game. And on top of that, if Auburn has this talent advantage, like it looks like they have on paper, it's got to show up at the line of scrimmage. And we'll talk about the passing game and the pass defense. I thought at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and we'll get into the defensive line, I'm sure, I thought Auburn just looked like the bigger, better, badder team, like up front. It really paid off in the running game in this one, and that's why Auburn gets 38 points, not really having much of a vertical passing game, and like that's pretty significant. Like, I don't want to play the Dan Peck game, but like the Dan Peck game of, if I told you that the only thing you know is that Auburn threw – how about this? How about the only thing you knew is that Auburn threw for 108 yards and Baylor threw for 419? You think, oh, my gosh, Auburn probably got shredded in this game. Nope.
You're saying, well, geez, if Auburn didn't run for 300 yards, they're in big trouble. Well, it turns out Auburn ran for 300 yards in that game and controlled it for the most part.
And like a little mini point off of this, and I'll kick it to you for your first one. The running game, what I thought was really good. Jackson Arnold making great decisions. He's a great runner, powerful runner. We talked about, hey, can he break some of those tackles? He did in this game. I thought both Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb, one of their best attributes in this game was falling forward, having really good body control, and getting extra yards. There's so many yards in this game Auburn gets where instead of getting hit and immediately going down, these are guys who are angling, they're leaning, and it's like, look, like you said, not a ton of explosive, like only one explosive run from those guys in this game, that Damari Alston 11-yarder. It's a lot of just go get it. Yeah, go get it.
Call it push, call it churn, leverage, whatever. Those running backs did an excellent job.
I thought Cobb's body control was great in this game.
Yeah.
Like, he just stays up and you have to really bring him down.
He's got a little work done in him, because what he'll do is, you think maybe he's not he's not built like your prototypical power back, your prototypical short yardage back. Brad Lester had a little bit of this, where it's like he's a guy who can explode through the line of scrimmage and get you those yards. Like in a short yardage situation, he can give you, even though he's maybe not your idea of a bruiser, he's very effective in short yardage at finding, and there were times when Auburn was willing to lean on him on third and short and fourth and short, which were problem downs last year. Remember that that was something, and I guess that gets to, because we're going to talk about this a little bit more with my point. Like, the word I keep coming back to is identity. Right? You think about Auburn last year, and in I think several of the past couple of years, maybe since Bo Nix left, the identity of the offense has been in question, because more than ever before in college football, the identity of your offense is directly tied to what your quarterback excels at. Like, where does your quarterback excel? And that's going to be the identity of your offense. There are a lot of teams in college football today wondering, where does our quarterback excel after what they saw yesterday, which is a problem. I mean, I think that's something you want to build. You want to build the offense around where your quarterback is really good. And for Auburn, I think Hugh Freeze knew, and we would go to we'd go to practice in the preseason camp. It's like, I think Hugh Freeze knew that Jackson Arnold's mobility and Jackson Arnold's ability to create big plays with his legs was always going to be a big part of this. Mm-hmm. It's just simulating that in practice isn't the easiest thing in the world if you're trying to keep Jackson Arnold 100% healthy and you don't want to go, full contact, like, if you don't want to let her rip in practice. And I think with Jackson Arnold, I'm really curious. It's a difficult way to, because you're opening your quarterback up to some hits.
Sure.
But if you can,
and against a defense that really struggled last season.
But if you can utilize Jackson's running and we've seen some of the best offenses in Auburn history utilize the quarterback run incredibly effectively.
Jackson Arnold ran for more yards in a game for an Auburn quarterback since Nick Marshall against Tennessee in
When he
2013.
Deep fried them, right?
Where Auburn only threw 7 passes all game. And it was kind of, I think Dave, friend of the program, Dave, put this out on Twitter. It's like, it felt like the 23rd, like he clocked it pretty quick. Like, it's just, why do anything else? And Jackson Arnold can move, man. He can. And when he was coming in, I don't think people were talking enough about his ability to run. Like, they beat Alabama last season because he could run the ball. His rushing numbers weren't outstanding, but he also got sacked a ton when he was out there because of the way Oklahoma's offensive line was a disaster last season. I thought in this game, though, you're right. Like, Jackson Arnold, what did we say about Jackson Arnold in the preseason? You talk about the identity. The strengths of Jackson Arnold we had heard and saw were he makes really good decisions with the ball in his hand. He can move. He works well in the RPO game, throws to the open guy. It's not going out. What do we say? Don't go out there and be Superman. Take care of the ball. Only one time they ever really got in danger, and that was a bad pressure allowed right there. And I think we can get into this later probably as well, but the pass pro, I think Auburn can improve in pass protection for sure, and also maybe Arnold having that quicker stuff out against blitzes. I thought Baylor had some delayed blitzes that were really getting home. But you're right, like, what is your identity? Like, what is your offense? And we thought that Jackson Arnold could be that upgrade because he was a good fit for this offense. And if he played to his strengths, Auburn could win again and let their talent win out. Like, don't go out in there swinging for the fences every single play. And that's what he did in this game. He didn't have to be anything more than being Jackson Arnold. It was really, really good. We didn't get to see a ton of that arm talent that he's been talked about, but we got to see a lot of the decision maker, the processor, the spread offense processor, decision maker, decisive kind of playmaker. I think it shows up in the fact that not only Auburn scores 38 points, but they go really well in the red zone in this game.
And they didn't have to run a ton of pass plays. You're right, but I think Jackson Arnold's ability to recognize
it's a ton of RPOs, by the way, and it's just a lot of that's open, we're running it. That's open, we're running it.
Yeah, I think the word there's recognition, right?
Yeah.
Like Jackson Arnold's ability to quickly recognize what he needs to do and then go do it.
Fantastic decisions. I mean, I haven't seen every play watched every play, but I don't know how many bad decisions he makes making reads.
And when he made the decision, we'll see how long this sustains. But again, we have the sample size of what he did last year, especially in the Alabama game. His ability to, when he decides he's going to get away from the defense, his ability to actually do it, his ability to win that race. Yeah.
Freeze had said, "Hey, I might want to let him stay in the pocket a little bit. He might be bailing out a little too quickly." And people got alarmed by that. But you see in this game where it really helps because in live action, when you're not getting whistled dead quickly, you can make plays. I mean, Auburn's first drive really doesn't go without him scrambling and breaking a tackle to get that first down. He converts third and short. I mean, I think it was 5 times he converted a third or a fourth down with his legs in this game. And then the biggest play of the game on offense for Auburn, it's 4th and 1. They go line up for the Philadelphia Eagles play, the brotherly shove. And they call timeout quick, and I think people were upset about that. It looked, from my perspective, that there was a substitution issue or a personnel thing, and you didn't want to get a penalty there, so you take that timeout. And they go call it, and it's a play where he gets to keep it, and he takes off and slices through everybody for a touchdown. And you started to see it, I think, in that fourth quarter as well. Like, as much as Jackson Arnold carved them up running the ball in this game, and he did really, really well, that first touchdown was a great recognition and takeoff from him on an option play. You saw, like, people were worried about Eric Singleton on the sweep. People were worried about Damari Alston getting there. People were worried about Jeremiah Cobb bouncing out. Like, and so take what you get. If the defense over pursues one way or another, you go take advantage of it, and he goes and helps Auburn win the game there. Like that's exactly what you need from your quarterback there. Good decision making. You know, that's something where you talk about an Auburn offense that shot itself in the foot so many times in these last few seasons during the streak of losing campaigns. It's like if they just clean up who they are on the field, they could be a better team. You saw some of that on Friday night against Baylor, where it's like, yeah, you make the right decision, you can win these games.
And there's still that sort of missing, there's that it factor, call it moxie, whatever, of what a quarterback can do when things break down. Like your ability to, once
to not be afraid in that moment.
Yes.
And want the ball. I thought our buddy Justin Lee wrote a really good column at the OE News about Jackson Arnold. So talking about, like, getting it in a big moment and wanting it and not shying away from it. And like, hey, you got to go get those tough yards. You get that. Like that's a lot of fun to watch in a quarterback. And that's why the kid was a 5-star.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just the fact that you make you think, 5-star, he needs to be the guy throwing 300 yards a game. There will be times, you know, hopefully for Auburn where he gets to light it up through the air, and that time might be coming soon. More importantly, though, it was like, this is your quarterback, and he's looking like one of the best players on the field.
Hey, he's got some cowboy. He's got some cowboy in him, and I think that's what you need, especially if you're going to run this offense. And yeah, it's just really, really. I mean, really impressive. I thought, you know, when he decided he was going to make plays with his legs.
All right. My second thing, do you have pass defense as one of yours?
I have sort of adjustments, you know, on defense. What they changed as the game went on. And
okay, I want to talk about the defense, and we can bounce back and forth here. I want to talk about the defense here because I think the big factor in this game ended up being there was some bend don't break to it, and I thought Auburn winning at the line of scrimmage. Going back to the offensive line, I thought Auburn's offensive line played well, especially in the area of run blocking. Got some stuff to clean up. Auburn's defensive front was able to establish something against Baylor's offensive front. And look, Baylor, 83 rushing yards if you take the sacks out. Bryson Washington, less than 4 yards a carry in this game. He had an 18-yarder and a 12-yarder, and everything else was hardly anything in this game. They did a really good job of bottling him up. And
Sawyer seemed to be limping, I thought, for much of the game, too. Maybe Auburn.
He got sacked 4 times, and that's it. Like, he did not have that Auburn was worried about him running the ball and, like, doing some of the stuff that Jackson Arnold did. He did not get much of a chance to do that in this game. Auburn kept him contained. I just thought making a team one-dimensional. And look, that one dimension for Baylor really worked, especially in the second half. They got better and better. I thought Auburn in the first half did a good job of getting off the field, you know, making some plays, like reacting from the big ones they gave up and slowing down. But, yeah, when you got in the red zone, like, this is a team that, you know, Dan, in this game, Baylor gets stopped inside the 5 on 4th down twice, right? When Auburn gets in close range in this game, they say run the ball and go punch it in. Baylor did not have the ability or the confidence to do that, and so you got to throw it a little bit more, and it just gets tougher, and that's how you make the difference. You get the two stops there, and you win by 2 touchdowns. Like that goes a long way. But 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. I thought Auburn's defensive front did really, really well in this game of just creating pressure and keeping them contained at times. Kieran Crawford gets his first sack. I thought every Keldrick Falk play in this game was big. He bats one down at the line of scrimmage on 3rd down. He gets a big sack in this one. He chases down a screen that could have turned into a touchdown.
That's maybe the biggest play he makes the entire game is chasing that guy down from behind. And speaking of Keldrick, I thought the strategy with Keldrick might have been it was twofold. Right. One, I think they wanted him fresh in the 4th quarter of a game where it was 110 degrees on the field at the start of the game. I also would think that they wanted to get Amaris going by playing Amaris quite a bit in the first couple of quarters, and
he funnels one to Chris Murray. Sack to Chris Murray early in the game. That looked really good.
The Texas radio guy sitting next to me in the press box, unprompted. Turns to me in the 3rd quarter and just says, "Man, 10's a beast. Like 10 is making plays." And
Keldrick played 50 snaps in this game. This is from PFF. Keldrick played 50 snaps in this game. Amaris played 39. Malik Blockton played 29. Bobby Jameson Travis played 27. Zeke Walker played 23. And everybody else is less than 20. And there's rotation there.
Amaris leaves the game, too. Remember, with that snap count.
He comes back. Everybody's worried about that after the game. He came back. He played, he's fine.
Yeah, I got an angry text message from somebody who was like, "Why didn't you ask Hugh Freeze about it?" It's like he went back in.
I said at the end. Yeah, I mean. Again, real quick. Okay, timeout. We'll do a quick 30-second timeout here. For those of you who immediately think after the game, like, why aren't you asking about this injury or this injury or this injury? I get it. I understand it. One, you don't always see everything. Like, Amaris came back into the game. Jeremiah Wright came back into the game. Like, these guys are able to feel. Secondly, the answer is probably going to be we don't know. Unless it's like when Champ Anthony obviously broke his leg. Like, we don't know. So, like, the post-game stuff, doesn't – you're not going to get a ton of info of that. So, but, I mean, everybody was getting it. Everybody was getting it. Like, where is it? Yeah. Amaris came back. He's fine. Jay Hardy, Dallas Walker, Malik Autry, Jordan Crawford, Darian Smith. Darian Smith played 8 snaps, Dan, and he had 2 pressures.
Yeah, Darian Smith was out there.
Welcome to college football.
I mean, Darian Smith made the kind of impression where you think, oh, he must have played a lot more than 8. But no, it was just 8 really, and a couple of them very impactful. Being
able to stop the run, and again, we can funnel this to the linebackers as well. Robert Woodyard had a great start in this one. I thought did a really good job making some plays, but you had DeMarcus Riddick play a good bit. Xavier Atkins played more snaps than anybody at linebacker. He had 51 in this game. Elijah Melendez played 19. And then you got some other guys in there. So, like, you saw in this game, Auburn, the front 6, I think, especially against the run and getting to the quarterback and locking down in the red zone and playing some bend don't break stuff, it really worked. So we will talk about the negatives on the defensive side of the ball because there were quite a bit when it came to defending the pass. I did think, though, kind of like we were saying, Auburn I can't sit here and say, hey, Auburn being able to run the ball like they did was the reason why they won the game without also saying – the reason that Baylor wasn't able to run the ball and the fact that Auburn Jackson Arnold, he did get pressured 5 or 6 times in this game, but, only 1 sack all game, and that was the only tackle for loss they had all game. Thought Auburn's defensive line, again, you win, you show up at the line of scrimmage. That talent advantage was big early on, and it wasn't just the first-rounder in Keldrick Falk who had a great game. But it was a lot of the other guys as well.
And again, a talented quarterback. You were facing a guy who, who can
Auburn was marked down for 24 pressures.
Yeah, he can get away from pressure. He'll get rid of the ball, and rattling his cage was vital.
Yeah.
Keeping him from being comfortable. And I don't think, even though you look and you see how many yards he had, I don't know if Sawyer was comfortable. Like all night with he
got into a rhythm a few times in the second half, but yeah, I mean, like he was
comfortable going over the middle on 3rd and long. I know that. I mean,
it just felt like it was a lot more chunky than consistent. You don't need to let chunks beat you, and that was what Baylor had to. It was kind of like Baylor kind of looked like Auburn at times last season, where it was just like if it wasn't a big play, it wasn't going to work, and so you see in this game how. That's hard to sustain that.
Feast or famine.
And to beat a really good team like that.
For sure.
All right, so you want adjustments on defense. What did you notice?
Well, sort of, as things went along, I think this might have been the plan anyway because of the climate and because of the depth on the team. It did seem like we saw some guys get more run in the second half, right? Auburn was trying some new faces in the secondary. Auburn was, that's where
So here's the thing. Caleb Harris had a tough game. I think, we could see that there were a couple of busts. There's a touchdown, at least one touchdown, maybe the second one. There was just like guys not in the right position, dudes running free. Happening on 3rd and long and 4th and long hurts. It really does. We were saying beforehand, did Caleb Harris not play as much in the second half? Still finished with 63 snaps.
Yeah.
So he played a good bit. Jay Crawford had 69. Baylor only ran 72 all game. So those guys did play a good bit. Champ Anthony at 56, but you did see more. Jacquez Robinson gets the start and plays 53 in this game. But you do see
Jacquez Robinson and Zeke Walker, I think, are the two maybe surprises of. I think you expected them to contribute. They were not on my 11 starters for this game against Baylor, and you saw them both. You saw them both quite a bit at their various spots.
Sylvester Smith played 40, but then you get KLF, Eric Winters. Both get a little over a dozen snaps. Rayon Strader got 10, and then New Boy Fagans got a snap late on defense. Not as deep of a rotation there. They kind of relied on their guys. Got to tighten up there. But, yeah, going back to what you were saying, though, had some adjustments had to be made throughout the game to kind of or you need to make more adjustments moving forward because, yeah, they were getting carved up at times.
Yeah, and I do want to know how much of that was. I mean, we went into the game talking about maybe the strength of the Baylor team is their options both on the perimeter and at tight end. Yep. Like they've got some guys.
Michael Trigg looked like what people thought Michael Trigg was supposed to look like in his career. 7 catches for 99 yards and a touchdown. I mean, Cole Wilson, the Texas State transfer, was eaten. 8 for 134. Ashton Hawkins had 70 yards. Kobe Prentice had a big touchdown. Like they got a lot. And
that's one of the spots where if you're looking at, well, where is Baylor relative to the best teams on Auburn's schedule? I would say Baylor at quarterback and skill position options, Baylor feels like they're probably near the top, near one of the better teams on Auburn's schedule. Not as a complete roster, but I think in that regard, quarterback, receiver, tight end, they are in the top tier of opponents Auburn's going to face this year, and they look like it.
That there was some stuff Auburn was giving up on defense in the secondary, especially in the second half, that felt a lot like the Missouri game last year, A&M, some Alabama, what Alabama was able to do effectively. So that's something where even though we think this Auburn secondary could be one of the strengths of this team, that was definitely Baylor's strength, and they won that battle more often than not. Now, Auburn did get some victories, a little too physical in coverage at times. It gave up some stuff on penalties. There were stops. There were good plays, but it was a lot of, they were getting chunks and chunks and chunks, especially in the second half, and I thought Auburn, their tackling was rough in this game. This is, I want to know, there's PFF has them down for 20 missed tackles in this game. That's a huge number.
Who knows how many yards?
The second and third level was just not where you wanted it to be in terms of their tackling. And, after the game, Freeze thought they looked sluggish. They looked a step slow at times. And I think, we talked to a guy I will mention here very shortly, in Rayshawn Pleasant. He just said, it's just we did not do our jobs, and it felt like the heat and the just constant go at it from Baylor through the air got to Auburn. They got to tighten that up, because guess what? In week 4, Oklahoma's going to do the exact same thing. They're going to try the exact same thing, and I think with a better quarterback in John Mateer. Maybe not as good at weapons, but definitely more of an SEC team all the way around.
Yeah, I think just like we were saying going into this game, you can't just let a team run up the middle, and that's probably why Aranda was saying what he was saying. Like you can't, you'll lose.
And yet he did.
and yet that's what happened. It was a marvelous.
I don't know.
A bluff, I suppose, but in the same
weird Jedi mind trick.
I don't think you can leave the middle of the field. That can't reliably be an option for the other team's quarterback either, and that's something, like you said.
I thought Crawford and Kay and Lee had some decent numbers in this one, but your safeties, your nickels, your linebackers, you got to do a better job in the middle of the field, because that might not be where your best receivers or but some teams will just, and they'll manipulate it, and they'll get it going over the middle of the field, and a guy like Sawyer Robertson is confident enough and experienced enough to let it rip over the middle instead of playing nothing but just going to the sidelines.
Money downs too. You know what I mean? The thought that you've done everything. Yeah. The thought that you've done everything you need to do to get it to third down or fourth down.
Yeah, Baylor was only 5 of 15 on third downs, but they converted some really long ones, and they converted some fourth and longs.
Yep.
Or fourth and mediums that were killers. And sometimes you send too much on a blitz. Sometimes you just bust in coverage. And I thought it was a lot of stuff that can be fixable. Maybe that's the big thing for me coming out of this one in the secondary. We have seen Auburn secondary play well. These guys in against teams that want to put the ball in the air a lot. It could have been an off night. I think it was definitely an off night for a guy like Caleb. Caleb Harris played great last season. I am willing to chalk up that was just a rough game, and we'll see how he responds the next couple of weeks. Guys can have bad games. Guys can have off games. They're allowed to do that. And it doesn't mean it's all over.
One game isn't a trend. You're absolutely right. And
you got to keep an eye on the next two games for sure.
Oh no, and I think last year you saw a willingness for Auburn. Even if you were an established senior with a lot of starts under your belt on defense, if Auburn thought they had a freshman who could challenge for playing time or who needed to be out there. We saw Auburn go to the kids at times last year, and I think look, knowing these coaches, especially in the secondary, they're going to give the experienced players the opportunity to show that they're the best guy, and the experience matters. But there's pressure, and there are options on that depth chart.
By the way, I don't know how much of a test the passing defense is going to get these next 2 weeks. Ball State has a quarterback turned wide receiver turned back to quarterback starting for them. He threw 16 passes yesterday against Purdue, and that was it. South Alabama won 38-21 over Morgan State and only threw 15 passes all game. So might be a little while before we get to see. But again, tightening it up, getting better in that area. That's something that I think until you get to Oklahoma in a few weeks, you'll have to keep an eye on it, because in your first shot against a really good team and a really good passing attack, or a team that wanted to be committed to that passing attack, you just gave up too much. And is that going to be a trend this season? We saw it at times last year. It was kind of a hot cold type of thing at times I even thought in this game for Auburn's defense. But yeah, in the secondary, got to tighten up, got to learn from this one for sure. All right, my number 3, Dan, it took us too long to mention it in this podcast, but we have to say it. Rayshawn Pleasant, instant impact. You talk about a guy who, it's exactly why you went out and got him. Rayshawn Pleasant was an All-American kick returner. Auburn, it was a guy that I think, on Saturday, Friday was Auburn's number 3 corner in terms of snaps on Friday night as well, like we expected. That depth, you want to have that out there. He said after the game, I felt like I can do a lot better on defense. We can do a lot better defensively. But special teams, Baylor's got the momentum. They got the vibes back in the stadium. And he gets the green light to return one. He wanted to return one earlier, and Auburn said, yeah, fair catch it, let it happen. Hugh Freeze says, hey, if he gets another shot, give him the green light, let him go. And it's just one cut, and it's so smooth. And we talked about it when you're like, there's a difference between a guy who's just really, really fast and can catch it and make something happen, and a good returner, like has the vision, doesn't have to stop and it's really, really smooth. And he was abusing Baylor's coverage unit. I also thought in this game, Dan, from that special teams perspective, that return, you look at the dudes on the field on that return, and it's like, okay, the talent level being better, the athleticism level being better showed out on that play. Like Baylor had guys that were flailing and just chasing. Meanwhile, Auburn had Malcolm Simmons is going stride for stride with him all the way, to the fact where Baylor's best shot at bringing Rayshawn Pleasant down on that return is the kid trying to throw Malcolm into him.
Yeah, Malcolm is in better position to make the tackle than anyone else on the field on that play. No, Rayshawn Pleasant is, and that's something else that I think is probably tough to simulate in preseason practice.
Yeah.
But
we did hear he had some really good returns in practice,
and we knew his reputation when he was in the portal, like as a guy who was an impact mid-major returner last season. So I think this is someone who it's
first kick returner for touchdown for an Auburn since 2019, first kick return, longest kick return for Auburn since Trey Mason did it in 2011.
Yeah, and what it did to momentum.
Maybe Trey Mason.
The fact that I'm not sure. I'll double check. Was there maybe at the beginning of the second half? Like, how often did Baylor have the ball in position to tie or take the lead? Right. It felt like Auburn was able to consistently distance themselves.
They never had a chance. They never had a chance to take the lead again. They're down when they go down 7-3. Then it's 14-3, and then it's 17-3, 17-10. Auburn's up 24-10. Yeah,
Auburn's ability to
31-10. Sorry,
Auburn's ability to consistently distance themselves, right? To keep that, to keep and that Pleasant,
I should have done it this way. So it's 17-10. And they get the ball back with a chance to tie late in the second half, but then Auburn scores a touch. So it's like they had a couple opportunities early in the third quarter, like late second quarter, early third quarter, to have a chance to score a touchdown. But other than that, Auburn had a response for everything, most everything in the second half. When Baylor scored, they extend that lead back out to 14. And one of the big ones is Rayshawn Pleasant, late third quarter. Baylor cuts it to a touchdown game, and they end up cutting it to a touchdown game later, and Auburn goes on the chew clock drive for the ages. But yeah, Rayshawn Pleasant, instant response. And as he said it, I asked him about it after the game. He said he could feel the momentum in that place kind of get killed right there. And Baylor still had a chance to stay in the game. You were there. The press box had open windows because it was 9 million degrees in there. The stadium is never the same after that kick return.
No. I think there's the belief that you're one stop away from getting the ball back and maybe making a play, putting it in Sawyer's hands with a chance. And Auburn always found a way to keep that lead safe. And the Pleasant, and I think after because that's the what's the touchdown before the Pleasant what's the
that
Baylor?
Little dump off?
Yeah,
that little dump off on fourth down.
It was fourth down. It's a fourth down touchdown. Like you feel like you
stole one.
You stole one and you made the play you needed to stay in the game.
Yeah.
And now it's a matter of your defense making a stand.
Yeah, I tweet like Auburn needs a long scoring drive, and then bang, nope. Instead, it's instant response from a guy who this is why he was brought to the school.
Think of it like this. A long touchdown drive there would have been like slowly letting air out of a balloon.
Yeah.
Instead, Rayshawn Pleasant took a sharp object and he just burnt,
and Auburn gets that, and Auburn
thing.
gets that one later, but they have to get that drive in the fourth quarter. But yes, it never really felt the same there. Really cool story as well, Dan. Rayshawn Pleasant from West Monroe, Louisiana, making the jump. This was his first power conference game. As a member of the power conference team at Auburn, he makes the jump from Tulane to Auburn. By the way, Tulane just steamrolled Northwestern. I don't know if you saw that. That was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll mention that one. There's something happened in that game that I thought was very telling. But yeah, he's from West Monroe. He has more family and friends in attendance than anybody else, to the point where I think I heard over 30, to the point where a good number of his new teammates gave up their friends and family tickets to make sure that he got everybody who could be there to be there for his debut. And
which might have been easier in a game in Waco, you know what I mean? But it's still a tremendous gesture by these teammates. Like he just
got here, man. He's only been here for a few months, and he was talking, and he was getting emotional talking about it, about how much he has felt like he's been accepted by this team really, really quickly.
Oh, I think the reaction to the touchdown, right? Because you know what was striking to me about that, and I guess this is going to happen when you play special teams too. But it was players from every position coming over and giving him kudos. It'd be Perry, and then it'd be a linebacker, and then it would be both of the Thompsons, right? You'd have linebackers,
all seven Crawfords,
and the giant tight ends are coming over, and like it was. I think the fact that you have that's sort of a. That indicates, what he's, the impact he's made.
They got a weapon. They've got a weapon. Like, teams are going to have to be strategic going to him moving forward. I mean, he was obviously awesome at it at Tulane last season, and now for your first return to be a house call is really special. And then to know you had all of your friends and family in the stands is one of the coolest things about it's a cool college football story. It's a cool game day story for sure.
You thought Auburn was going to have those kind of weapons too, right? But it's was it going to be Malcolm? Was it going to be Eric? Was it going to be Jeremiah Cobb?
And look, those guys may be faster, like pure speed wise than them, but like if we were playing the CFB game or we were playing Madden, his return rating is higher than he's got. He talked about it in the preseason. Like, it is a natural gift. He is so smooth. He is not just an elite athlete they're having to teach how to play kick return. No, he is a guy who is built for that role.
Oh, I think the same way we've seen it running back. Like, sometimes vision can be the separator. Sometimes your ability.
He has great vision on it because it's just one turn and he knows he can get it.
Vision and anticipation can be separating factors here, and that's something that's is difficult to, like we were saying, difficult to simulate, but also something that can be when you see it, when the lights go on and you get to see it, it's really special.
All right, you're number 3.
Okay, so I wanted to, I guess do you want to talk about Amaris Williams?
Yeah,
I think it's. I mean, to me,
Amaris,
because that to me is. the thought that he has nearly as many snaps as Keldrick. Like he was tabbed
50 and 39.
And if there's a player who comes to mind for you as someone who had made a big jump from what their role was last year to now, but Amaris feels like the easiest candidate as from game one of this is a guy who was largely a non-factor. He was last season. He was someone who was Von Trell told the story when we got to talk to the assistant coaches during the preseason. He was physically ready, mentally, emotionally. He was not necessarily ready to contribute as a true freshman. And by the way, that's it's not unheard of, right? Like it's a big jump, especially when you're talking about a smaller school guy. From a place he's not from Highland Home, but he's
By the way, it don't matter getting shouted out on the Fox broadcast. want to know how that got fed to them.
I mean, they got.
Is Jason Benetti listening to us?
They got to be listening to the podcast, right? Or you know, we're talking to Rosie, right? Like it's something.
Could be talking to Rosie.
There's any number of ways they found out, but it's no. I mean the impact Amaris Williams made in Game 1. Like if you were one of the folks who thought like, wow, that's one of the stories of the preseason. That's one of the breakouts. Like you got even. I mean, you got a glimpse of what could be something really important. And you're talking about Keldrick Falk, like being able to having an option like Amaris and being able to, whether it's playing them together or using Amaris to keep Keldrick fresh.
I mean, the Rabbits package they run is gnarly, and they're both on the field at the same time. And DeMarcus Riddick's out there.
And the Amaris and like you said, Amaris and Chris Murray combined on a sack, and the thought that Auburn has some weapons beyond Keldrick and Kieron Crawford at those positions is really important.
Yeah, Amaris played really, really well, I thought, in this game, and again, digging in a little bit more with guys like Darian Smith playing late, Jordan Crawford getting out there some, Jared Smith, like. Yeah, but you knew this was a guy who has the potential to be one of Auburn's best talents on the defense front. And so, what did we hear all offseason? He's more mature. He's taking this seriously. He's learned from he's learned those lessons from last year. And to see him put it out there again, you're going to look at the box score from this game, and you're going to see Amaris Williams, has one tackle, half a sack, and think, okay, he didn't really make much of an impact. He looked good out there, and I thought, was getting after it. So I think that's a good shout. For my fourth one, Dan, I'm going to go with a little bit of a curveball here from this. I want to talk about Auburn's tight ends because I don't think we were expecting a ton out of them this season. It was just the personnel grouping didn't look great in terms of what they had coming back. Not a lot of it wasn't a big name, especially when you compare it to receiver and you hear a lot more of, Auburn's going to play a lot more of their receivers. There's a lot of, I don't know how much we saw even 10 personnel on Friday night against Baylor. They brought the extra beef, 11 and 12 personnel, and did really, really well.
They got to throw it to Tate. That's my one demand at tight end.
Preston Howard getting the first catch of the season.
Yeah.
And just getting open, sitting down, and making a play. I thought him and Brandon Frazier both blocked really, really well in this game.
Frazier looked good catching the ball.
Yeah. Tate got 11 snaps. Preston Howard got 33. Brandon Frazier got 52 in this game. I thought they played well. You go back and look at some of Auburn's runs in this game. What the tight ends are doing is very important. And, again, like in a game where you ran and played power grown man football a lot, it really mattered what your tight ends did. And look, I'll be honest, I was down on Auburn's tight end room. I didn't know how much of an impact they were going to make. They make a winning impact in this game. And they did a really good job. That was a group that is not going to be flashy, not going to get a lot of the glory, not going to get a lot of the limelight, but made a little bit of an impact in the passing game, made a big impact in the running game, and to the point where if Baylor's going to sit back and too high, and they're going to have the little guys on the field because they're worried about Auburn's passing game. You bring an extra blocker out there, you bring an extra guy out there to go move. I thought Preston Howard, even though he's more of a passing option, I think, a receiving option than maybe Brandon Frazier. And Brandon Frazier did look good throwing there. Frazier's more established, I think, as a blocker. I thought he blocked well, and likewise, I thought both of those guys showed good two-way ability at tight end that you need.
And being able to show run and pass off of that is so important, especially if Auburn's going to be
being able to show run and just run it anyway.
Sure, but being able to having that option. And guys like Preston and Brandon Frazier being viable options in the passing game.
This other thing, just like everybody in the building knew they were going to run the ball, and it didn't matter. Like it was still going to work, and those guys get a lot of credit there. I'll throw one more, and this is a minor one. And I'm going to mention this in the film room story. This is an excellent Connor Lew game. You watch Connor Lew run block in this game. He is getting to the second level in a hurry. And look, I thought Mason Murphy played well. I thought Xavier Chaplin played well. I thought Auburn's offensive line all did their jobs. A little bit of a slower start, it looked like, for a guy like Dylan Wade. There was some time missed for some other guys. Too Tall had to come in there. Connor Lew, there was a guy I used to work with at The Athletic, who's my favorite, by far, my favorite NFL draft guy, Dane Brugler. He does the most work I know of anybody. Puts out the beast every year. He tweeted this during the game on Friday night, and I was blown away by it. He has true junior Connor Lew as a top 25 prospect and his only interior offensive lineman in his early first round look for this upcoming draft class. He said he's got it all that you wanted at center. And he played really, really well in this game, and I thought he really stood out. So minor fifth one, little shout out there. Connor Lew played a great game. Played a fantastic game.
I'll tell you something. I totally agree. It seemed very early on, wow, he's really getting a push, and that's a big reason why on some of these downs where it's everybody knows the run's coming. Didn't seem to matter. Auburn,
you go back and look at Auburn's successful runs in this game and see how many times Connor Lew's 3, 4, 5 yards upfield hitting somebody.
Yep.
That makes a huge difference.
I mean, and to your point about the NFL draft, it is. I mean, you got to project as an all-pro to be a center going that early in the draft. You got to project as not just somebody's starter and a quality one. You got to seem like you're going to have a very
fantastic career.
Yes. You got to be that kind of player to justify that kind of pick at center. And something else, speaking of those interviews we had with the assistant coaches in the preseason, Jake Thornton is not prone to hyperbole.
Nope.
He's not someone who heaps a ton of praise on a guy who hasn't necessarily earned it. He likes to downplay these kind of things. In my experiences with him, when he says he thinks he's got the best center in college football,
well, let me tell you, he looked like it on Friday night.
When he tells us,
it's one game, long season, long way to go, but he looked like one of the better interior linemen that's one of the better interior lineman performances I've seen at Auburn in a while. And then when you talk about decision making, and I think Auburn they had the 2 false starts in a row. But you talk about the communication on the road, new quarterback, new tackles. A center's got a big job getting everybody together, and I think there's some stuff that you don't some of the stuff you don't get to see on film. I'm sure he did really, really well because of the way Auburn's offensive line played and offense as a whole.
I think a lot of the same thing. It's true of Kayan. It's true with Keldrick Falk. It's when you play that much your first 2 years in college football, it indicates that there was something special. And a lot of those guys have gigantic junior seasons. The kind of players that are on the field a lot as true freshmen, especially, when you're talking about the Power Four. If you carve out a starting job, Jay Crawford will be this case next year. If you carve out a significant role for yourself in your first 2 years on campus, it indicates you might have the kind of special stuff where you could be one of the nation's best at your position as a junior. And I think Auburn's got a couple of guys, true juniors that played a lot their first 2 years in college football and now look like, hey, they're the older, they were Connor Lew. I made this point when talking to Jake Thornton. Connor Lew for the last 2 years has been facing older, more experienced guys. He's been a freshman or a sophomore center facing off against, especially in the COVID era, facing off against 24-year-olds and NFL prospects. And now he's the junior. He's the bigger, more experienced guy. And he's really, based on that first game, I think Connor Lew is going to really enjoy being the older, more experienced guy on the line of scrimmage facing off against some defensive linemen that maybe haven't seen something like him before.
Yeah, 100% I agree. Do you have a fourth one, or do we want to make Connor Lew your fourth?
No, I like that. I think that we talked about it a little bit at the top, I guess, when talking about the run game and the identity. Just awesome to see. I guess my fourth point would be Damari and Jeremiah, and sort of just the story that these are two guys who could have left. These are two guys who, and you could say this about several positions, but these are two guys who could have sought out more playing time somewhere else with the situation in Auburn's backfield the last couple of years, and instead they did everything they could to help the team win. They stayed ready when their number was called, and they got to play the lion's share. What Darrell has a couple of snaps, but it's mostly those two guys at running back, Damari and Jeremiah, and they are out there just consistently influencing how this game is going to go. Like I thought it was, I thought it was great to see, and it's two guys, and then seeing them do their double act in the post game,
That's
right?
fun.
Like it's, I mean, they're a natural pair, and it's
Austin talking about how him and Jeremiah Cobb were having a conversation in the hotel, being like, "Oh, this is us. Like we're getting to do this now." Those are guys who were behind Jarquez, behind Tank, and they looked at each other and said, "Hey, like we're playing real football today, and they're going to be the guys being relied upon." It's a cool feeling. And I asked Freeze about it after the game, and he said, like, yeah, like a lot of guys would have jumped into the portal in their spots. They didn't. They wanted to be at Auburn, and they got rewarded on Friday night.
Yeah, loved getting to see those guys have a moment where, and again, Jackson Arnold's yardage matters, but if you're going to overplay what Jackson gives you on the ground, Auburn's got a couple of running backs that will help keep that offense on schedule, and they were close. You didn't see it. Like I mentioned that the longest run from either of them was 11. They were close on a couple of, they were very close to breaking it. Jeremiah's clearly got that ability. I've always thought that Damari's big playability is maybe a little bit underrated.
He didn't have that breakaway speed, but he's got that, like, I think his big playability is going to be like when Marshawn Lynch was in his prime, and it's like, oh, that guy's just not getting tackled.
Sure.
Or like he's just rumbling.
Or you've got, it's not necessarily breaking away, but if you've got one man to beat and he beats him, like it's like you've got one man to beat and that guy doesn't make the tackle, Damari Alston can.
He's hard to bring out on first contact.
Yeah.
I want to see from this game. That's a really good point. I wanted to see what he finished with. PFF has him down for 66 yards after contact of his 84 were after contact. By comparison, less than half of Jeremiah Cobb and Jackson Arnold's yards were after contact.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked what I saw.
That's bruiser ball right there.
And that was a question mark going into the season because of how big of a role Jarquez played last year. And there was there was a lot of Omar talk in the preseason, and I think you're going to see Omar Maps in the next couple of weeks.
Darrell got a touch.
But again, early in the preseason, when you were hearing that Omar talk, Damari and Jeremiah were both dealing with injuries.
Right.
Now that they're healthy, they looked healthy on Friday night, and that's something that, if folks thought maybe without Jarquez Hunter it was going to be. You were going to see Auburn take a huge step back.
It was definitely a question mark.
Yeah.
I think this game showed us how much we know, because we were like, I don't really know what you're going to learn. I don't know what you can expect from the run game. And, oh, by the way, Auburn's pass defense should be its strength. And it was like, well, that was the flip in this game. So.
I think Auburn will be, if you're talking Damari and Jeremiah going over 150 combined on the ground, Auburn's going to be a tough out when those two, with everything else you've got to account for. Yep. When those two guys are going over.
And I'll say this, if Hugh Freeze and this coaching staff and this quarterback, they talked about swallowing their pride and not going after it in the passing game and not forcing it as much. They kind of got away from that a little bit, like late second, early third, probably got. Just, if a team's going to give you the run, be willing to do the run. And I know you're spending a lot of money on your wide receivers, and I know you got a lot of emphasis on and I know Hugh Freeze's pass, but like, if teams are going to give you that, take it. Because at the end of the day, it's still the safest way to get really good offense.
And the reason they're giving it to you is because they're worried about giving up big plays to the receivers. That's a huge. I mean, that's absolutely part of the reason Baylor.
We'll talk about it in the preview later this week. Like, I'm interested to see what Ball State ends up doing, and like Ball State now at South Alabama these next 2 weeks. Because sitting back is just, if they ran the ball like that on Baylor, what they're going to do on a team that that does not have near even Baylor's talent.
Yeah, if you don't have Big 12 athletes even in your front seven.
And I thought this game was a very much here's the difference between the Big 12 and the SEC type of game. What's the difference between the SEC and the MAC is going to be the next question.
And I guess if I'm shouting out the running backs, and we did talk about that a little bit. We talked about Connor Lew just now. Hugh Freeze.
Ball State gave up 340 through the air.
Against
a Purdue team that was beyond awful last year.
I think we both got questions to Hugh Freeze about the offensive line, right? And sort of, I thought that he seemed.
I asked Jackson.
That's right. Yours was to Jackson. Mine was to Hugh Freeze about the job they did, and Hugh Freeze had put pressure on the offensive line earlier this preseason.
And they still got ways to go, I think, in pass protection. There's some breakdowns and issues. I think the running backs play a part in that as well. Tight ends as well. They need to clean up in pass pro. That's an area they have to improve. They can't. You're not going to be able to live with as many scrambles. Like, it's going to be tougher to do that against SEC teams and live that way. But if you tighten up in that area, you can be in a much better spot. Also, special teams penalties and some miscues, that's got to get cleaned up as well, for sure. But again, that's what we're saying. Like, Dan, I don't know if you want to put a letter grade on it. I think Auburn walked out of a win they walked out of there with like a B level game from Auburn, like B minus level game from Auburn, and won by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I might be a little bit more forgiving and skew B plus just because you went 300+ on the ground, but I think
4 bills through the air is tough.
I know. I mean,
it was like it's an air raid-ish team, but he still averaged like 8 something per attempt. Like it was like a lot of times the air raid teams, like you can live with the dinks and the dunks. And it was too many chunks, I think there.
And there were times last season where we were lamenting the offense and how often the defense had to be on the field because of the Auburn offense.
Yeah.
I think this was a game where like the defense needed to get themselves off the field.
Yep.
Like it was about winning.
Auburn won the time of possession battle by 6 whole minutes in this game.
They
leaned on it. And when they needed to lean, they leaned.
And if Auburn makes another play on third, or if you have a third or fourth down, you got a couple in there where it's like you could have maybe wrapped this one up earlier.
Yeah.
Right? If Baylor doesn't hit on, how many 2 different fourth down touchdowns?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I think there's some week 1 tackling and conditioning for the defense that can get tightened up, like moving forward week 2 and beyond, that I expect to improve. It's the breakdowns that are tougher to swallow, and it's the penalties, I think, like being too aggressive, being too physical at times, that you got to work on. And I think if you improve that in the pass protection, I think Auburn's going to be in a fine spot moving forward. And they get 2 weeks coming up here in paycheck games where you still have to take these teams seriously. Like, remember what people were saying before the New Mexico State game a couple years ago? And I don't think Ball State's New Mexico State, and maybe South's not New Mexico State either, what they were bringing to the table that year.
And I think more importantly, I don't think this Auburn team is the Auburn team from 2 years ago.
Correct.
But
Friday night just felt like a reversal from what Auburn usually does in so many ways. They didn't throw the ball too much that hurt themselves. They took what the defense gave them. They made good decisions. They took care of the ball. And on defense, they got the stops that they needed. You do that. Dan, this game felt like the opposite of the Oklahoma game last season. Like the fourth quarter feels completely different from what that was last year. Missouri game as well. Missouri fights back. Auburn was in a position like that. This game felt like you learned your lessons. And if you keep showing that you've learned your lessons and you have a better team around that, and you're a more talented team, this can be the step forward. It's just one game, but it's a good vibes game. It's a great start. And again, like I said, the fact that I think this was a game where Auburn could have played a decent bit better says a lot about where I think this team could be headed.
A very promising start to the 2025 season.
For sure. Dan.
For Auburn, a very promising start for the 2025 season.
Let's talk some week 1. Let's do the carousel. There's only one place to start. Tallahassee.
Der Kommissar, baby. Gus Malzahn.
He's back. He's back in his bag.
He's so back.
So here's my thing with Gus. With Gus Malzahn, I thought when he took that Florida State job, it was like, I don't want to know what like Florida State, because they were so bad last season, and it's like, I don't know about this. And he stepped away from UCF. The writing was on the wall there, and it's like, man, that's a tough gig with what they're coming off. There's a lot of pressure, and they got to play Alabama week 1 stuff. But I had said at one point, Gus Malzahn, where all he has to do is just draw up ball plays, and he got a whole offseason to get ready for this one, it could be really, really scary because he's still got it, man. And I think a team like Alabama, who we were talking about, Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma, where they ran through him last season, he had it going, and he's got a quarterback that he's got weapons, man. It was so funny. It was kind of like the Malzahn era all-star like archetypes out there, like. We'll talk about Castellanos, but they got a running back who I was like, man, he's got another Cam Petway. Look at this big dude moving.
Yep.
And then he's got a track star that he hit on that wheel and some of the, took the top off the defense a couple times with it. But he's got it, man. This was vintage Gus. And guess what? Vintage Gus Malzahn, no matter where he is, it seems like, and no matter who's on that other sideline, it's a home game against Alabama. My man's going to be in his bag. Yeah. What a game. What a game. And look, Florida State's defense looked improved. Bama's got really big issues. We can get into that too, but like, I mean, a lot of it goes back to this was vintage Gus Malzahn, and it's fun. And how about this? Auburn looked its most Gus since Gus left on Friday night against Baylor. The next day, you get a vintage actual Gus Malzahn offense performance and beating Alabama.
You talk about some teams that can just take last season and crumple it up and throw it in the trash, right? And we've seen Gus do this before.
Yep.
We've seen Gus show up at a place. He's done it at Auburn more than once.
Yeah,
he showed up. He showed up here and said, "You know what? Take last year and throw it away. Doesn't matter. This is what we're doing, and we're going to win, and we're going to look like a completely different team from game one."
Yep.
He's done it, and look, it's not just the 3 victories over Alabama as Auburn head coach and the victory over Alabama as Auburn assistant coach in 2010 and the victory over Alabama as Arkansas's offensive coordinator in 2006. I mean, there are
now Florida State offensive coordinator.
Absolutely. Now he's got
Unreal.
one. Now he's got one in a Florida State uniform. Like this guy.
I tweeted the picture. He turns into Dr. Manhattan when he sees the white Alabama uniforms. When it's the Alabama roads on the other sideline, he becomes the all-knowing, the omnipotent offensive mastermind. Like it is, and he had it.
It's on site. It's on site when he sees that uniform.
Bama had nothing. Bama had nothing for it at times.
Okay, I'll tell you what. And we can pivot to the Alabama offense for a sec.
Before I pivot, how about this? Thomas Castellanos got clowned for months and months. Oh.
Not by us.
Oh.
That's how I want my quarterback talking.
Oh, you're calling out Alabama at Florida State, at 2-10 Florida State, and you're like a 5'5" quarterback or whatever? There's no way. And it's all – they did an SEC Media Days like best of clips where it was all the SEC Network people like kind of snickering and being like, "Oh, what do you think about what the Florida State quarterback said?" And they were like, "All disrespect will be addressed." Well, guess what? That dude, and from the first drive of that game, you could tell that guy was out there for war. And it was, look, sometimes guys call it out and they get shown up and it looks rough. He called out Alabama and said Nick Saban's not there to save y'all. And guess what? He's not. And that did not look like a Nick Saban Alabama team. And this dude took full advantage. Fearless, not perfect, but fearless, made all the right plays. Gus with a fearless, quick quarterback is scary. That is some scary, scary stuff.
That's right. No, it was a long fly ball by our boy Castellanos, baby. And that was and he is
deep drive.
We've seen Gus Malzahn take a quarterback that looked like lunch meat elsewhere and turn him into
Bill O'Brien didn't want him.
Turn him into steak. Yeah. And I mean Chris Todd, right? I mean we've seen this where it's like, oh wow, and of course
Nick Marshall.
Of course, I mean the greatest example of it maybe is Nick Marshall.
Took a defensive back.
and now you've got a guy who he got benched, midway through the year at BC or whatever happened last year. Again, take last year, crumple it up, throw it in the garbage. This is and especially at Florida State. Right, like we've seen that's a place where when they've got the wrong thing at quarterback, they can lose to anybody in the ACC. Yeah. Anybody in the ACC.
Here's the other thing with Florida State: they still got athletes.
Yep, and when they get the right guy at quarterback, it can unlock a lot of that other stuff, and that's what you saw.
They have some dudes. That defense doesn't look great, but by the way, that offense looks real good.
Antonio Cromartie Jr. getting a bunch of snaps, on the Florida State defense. Sorry about that, folks.
Alabama though, they looked bad. Dan. Like they looked flat. They looked unprepared. They got pushed around.
DeBoer looked me in the eyes at Media Days and said he thought Ty Simpson was as good as any quarterback that was in the portal this offseason. He just wasn't as experienced. And that seemed to be like after one game, like and again, you don't want to overreact.
I'm sure we'll get into Arch and all that later, but like when you look at, there are several plays when the pressure got on him, it was done. And there's that fourth down where all he's got to do is keep running, and he drops that thing off and it's incomplete, and it's so tough. And
he threw a couple hospital balls.
Yeah, they didn't have much of a running game at all, but and Jam Miller was hurt, and they were missing some guys, but like even still, this was a team that was favored by double digits. He's now lost 4 times favored by double digits at Alabama, and this was game 13. It's rough, man. It's not trending well at all. And like you have a fan base that does not like. There's a lot of people at Alabama who do not or not either used to this or it's been a long time since they've had to deal with this.
And with Saban, I think the press conferences you got used to the point. The abruptness of sort of, a lot of Saban's answers. And with DeBoer, and again, not to read too much into this, but it's word salad, right? It's a roundabout way of saying nothing.
I think he's a good football coach. I think guys cannot be fit. Yeah.
That Washington season was not an accident.
Yeah. And he was good before then too. It's just like, it just doesn't seem like it's going well in terms of fit wise. They looked very human. And like, they lost to Oklahoma. They got blown out by Oklahoma. That was like, 24-3 or what it was last year? Like getting run over. And so that shouldn't be as much of a surprise. But it's like they didn't get any better in that area. And they lost to Michigan that way as well. Like they just don't. There's a difference. There is a decided difference, and it's not what Alabama expects. And that's a big change. And that is a fan base that is not accustomed to that. And
they go to Athens in a couple weeks. Well, there's a trip to Athens, Dan, and we'll see.
Did you see the stuff post game? We're like, look, man, I think Ty Simpson could end up having a good season. Ty Simpson could end up being a good quarterback. But if Ty Simpson's going to the press conference and he's trying to be Tim Tebow and like, I apologize to every Alabama and does like the speech like that, and then like they're talking to players after the game, it's like what needs to get better, what can improve, and they're talking about like, cleaning up after themselves at team dinners and stuff like that, and like doing little things around. It's like, nah, man, you probably should just like be better at football. Like you should get better at the football things. And it's so odd. It's so odd. Like, because it's such a departure from what you're used to seeing from them. And it is, oh boy, that is rough stuff. That is rough. And look, they can still be. It's one game. You can recover from one game really quickly. In college football for sure, and still be fine.
And they have the talent. One would think they have the personnel advantage in a lot of these.
There's a lot of pieces that don't seem to be fitting, and it's odd. It's a really odd spot for them to be.
That schedule's full of landmines too. That schedule's full of landmines. This was one of them, and they've got several more before things are over.
All right. I guess we need to talk about
they have South Carolina too. Didn't mention that, but I mean they've got
we need to talk about Arch Madness. Ohio State 14, Texas 7. I thought these were two really good defenses playing really good defense for a lot of this game. This one was another one, Dan, that like Ohio State was able to run the ball and Texas wasn't, and that made a big difference. The Arch thing, it was really. Like he looked inexperienced. Like his mechanics went weird at times. He had like some like really bad throws. He had a really good one that the play to get him back in it was big. Here's my thing with Arch is that he didn't ask to get talked about like this ad nauseum all offseason. So I'm not blaming him on it or anything. But like guys, like he's a guy who's inexperienced. Like the most run he's gotten in his career were against like teams like Louisiana Monroe, right? Like, so he could be really, really good, but there was a lot of like
certainty. There was certainty.
Why was this guy talked about like he was? I mean, people were talking. And look, if you're on ESPN or you're the SEC Network or whatever, and it's your job to get attention and say things to be clipped and get reaction to, that's one thing. But like even like from like just generally good. Like level-headed folks, there was a lot of hype. And one game doesn't take any of that away. Again, he could be good. Ty Simpson could be good. All these guys could be good. But it just felt really off. And look, playing at Ohio State might do something. This is a defending national champion. They still got a lot of talent on that team. And they're going to be really, really good yet again. I just thought it was really weird that, like, right off the bat, you get all right, maybe we need to pump the brakes on this kid. Or, like, definitely need to pump the brakes on this kid.
And I think you got to keep in mind, too, that at Ohio State is maybe the toughest draw in college football this season, if you want to make the argument. Like, it's one of the two or
I can see that,
three,
yeah.
two or three
Defending
toughest
national champion.
Yeah, one of the 2 or 3 toughest assignments you could give a quarterback right now.
I still don't want to play at Georgia.
I would still.
I think Georgia now has an SEC record for home wins in a row.
Georgia's last Kirby Smart has lost 4 home games at Georgia. 3 of them were in his first year.
Yeah.
Since the start of the 17th season, the only coach to win in Athens other than Kirby was Will Muschamp with South Carolina, and they were like a 24-point underdog.
Yeah.
And it took double overtime.
Yeah.
And so, you're right. I think there's absolutely.
Yes.
But the shoe is in that tier of as far as it.
I thought this game was very much a kind of week 1 defensive slugfest. We've seen this at different levels. I thought that Kansas State-Iowa State game, in week 0 was very similar to that.
But I agree with you, especially
LSU Clemson was like that.
And the other thing that struck me about the talk around Arch this year is that we had quarterbacks in the SEC who had excellent seasons last year coming back, including Sellers, including Nussmeier. Like there are multiple quarterbacks in the SEC who came back from last year and probably have. I mean, they've shown far more as far as now. Do they have Texas' supporting cast? Do they have Arch's pedigree as a recruit?
I was about to say, do they have? Are their last names Manning?
Yeah, is Peyton Manning is Peyton Manning their uncle? Like no, but I think no, I think and clearly that plays some role in this. But yeah, I think there's but I would not take a victory lap.
No.
If you're someone who thinks the Arch thing is going to be a disaster either, because they've got the ability to like that one feels you should panic far less about that than what you saw in Tallahassee.
Yeah,
like if you're interested in either of those teams.
How about another one? A game where like again this week, if you can run the ball, run it. Like, and if you can't run the ball, it could get tough for you at times. LSU 17, Clemson 10. LSU didn't run all over the place, but Durham had a good game. And Dan, do you know how many rushing yards Clemson had in this game? 31.
Oof, city.
They are hardly running the ball at all, and it's Clemson, man.
Yeah.
That's Clemson. Like.
And that's a quarterback that you would think would force defenses to back off. Klubnik is considered, one of the top guys.
LSU played that second half not scared at all.
Nope.
Of that offense.
No, LSU was,
and LSU's got a defense, and Clemson's still got a defense, but LSU made enough plays in that second half to win that game, and should have had another touchdown.
If this
that crazy catch that was made down the sideline should have been a touchdown. This could have been a 2-touchdown loss.
If this is, and that should have been a catch.
Yeah,
if this is Brian Kelly's best defense at LSU, they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough to beat in every single game. They've got it.
You don't necessarily want to be like Auburn missing LSU this season. I think is a good thing on the schedule.
What about Tennessee? I thought
good.
I look 45 points. Yeah, better debut than Nico had out in the Rose Bowl.
How about that?
But it's no comment.
Devin Dampier looks good.
Yes. Oh, our guy.
That's gonna be a fun pairing there.
Yeah. No, they're gonna be tough in the Big 12. I'm
interested to see what Tennessee, like Syracuse in the second half got really going on offense at times. But I mean, if Tennessee can replace that quarterback with Aguilar and have a really good vertical passing game and still do a lot of that, stuff you want to see from that brand of offense at Tennessee, they'll be more than fine.
I tell you what, Tennessee's next 5: ETSU at home, Georgia at home, UAB at home. They go to Starkville, and they've got
Georgia. So Georgia plays Tennessee and Alabama back to back.
That's right. Yeah,
I forgot that.
Yeah, Georgia goes to Knoxville and so you've got winnable football games.
Yes.
Until they go to Tuscaloosa on the third Saturday in October is a really interesting game, and maybe even a more interesting game now than it was yesterday. And then it's a look. This is and I was down on Tennessee. I wanted to see how they responded without Nico. This is a schedule that sets up for them to win a lot of football games. Like this is a schedule where their SEC road games are Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, and Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And the other and everyone else is playing, including Georgia's playing in Knoxville. That was their toughest non-conference game, and they beat Syracuse by 20. This is a Tennessee team that could have maybe the biggest year Heupel has had at Tennessee. And again, for Nico to walk away from that is, I mean, for that, to walk away from that for UCLA is a puzzling decision. But it's but no, that was a very 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 solid start to the year for Tennessee. I know that Syracuse game was a trendy upset sort of pick, and Tennessee just dispatched with that really quickly.
My upset pick for the week almost cashed. I say didn't really. Kentucky 24, Toledo 16. Dan, that was bad. Kentucky got a 79-yard touchdown run. That was kind of the difference in the game. I believe they scored also on a short field after a Toledo turnover. Toledo outgained them. Toledo just played better offense all game than Kentucky. Zach Calzada, 10 of 23 for 85 yards and a pick. It's not going to get it done. They did run the ball well in the second half and were able to pull away. But
Kentucky has about 6 days to fix this before Ole Miss comes to town.
That's gonna be bad.
Yeah, and again,
Ole Miss put lit Georgia State on fire last night.
Ole Miss was running wherever they wanted, and Austin Simmons. That's now I'll tell you what, that's a guy who we're talking just like Arch Manning has tantalized in glimpses going into the season. Austin Simmons is that's a trendy quarterback to have a very big year.
Kiffin had a couple picks early, and then seemed to do
settles in and can do everything Lane Kiffin asks his quarterbacks to do, and that's
I'm just scrolling through it, just results that catch my eye. No comment on Troy beating Nicholls State 38-20.
No, we're still trying to get that AD job, so can't talk about that.
Can't talk about that. Austin Peay beating Middle Tennessee by 20 is not good. No. Derek Mason and the gang.
No, I'll tell you what. Don't play in Europe and then try to play a game a couple of days later.
Don't lose it.
Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, Iowa State looks fine.
Iowa State scored 55.
Slow start, but they figured out.
Did you see what Rocco Beck did? I think he threw one incompletion.
One incomplete pass, and then.
But Kansas State needed a late touchdown to beat North Dakota.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
Not great.
It's
not great.
And we wondered if you were going to see sluggish performances from either of those teams.
Yeah.
Coming back from I would absolutely want a bye week if I'm playing week 0 in Europe. But no, that was a close call for Kansas State.
Follow this under interesting. A&M was not able to run the ball well against UTSA. They did throw though. Marcel Reed had a good game. So I thought that was odd. Did you?
And as I mentioned earlier, they go to South Bend.
Did you see the New Mexico trick play touchdown?
No. Do I need to see this?
You need to go watch it. Well, you go look it up. It's a fun one. It's a fun one for sure. And then just one more because I love them dearly. One of the few road wins, or I guess, we can talk about a couple more. One of the few road wins of college football. If you haven't been watching the Rice offense, watch that Rice offense. They only scored 14, but they beat Louisiana on the road. That's a team that's expected to be not very good. They went out and got Davidson's head coach that runs a funky shotgun pistol-based triple option. They're a whole lot of fun. This is going to hurt some folks that are listening to this right now. Brian Harsin might have a quarterback at Cal.
The kid, right?
He's good.
The true freshman.
Yeah, he looked good. And Cal beat Oregon State. Washington had to pull away from Colorado State late. I thought that one was a weird one in the late window. But yeah. So did you see the play?
Big week. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So it's like this weird fake tush push purposefully let the ball go by you, and then you get to lob up a leak out tight end. It's one that you definitely knew they worked on it all season.
Yeah, it's like a fake tush push, and it's got a little bit of the Tebow jump pass as far as the formation that the one tight end, because you keep everyone home to block except one guy, and then the ball, and I think it bounces to the quarterback too. So I mean, it's a wonderful play. Oh, that is
wonderful play.
That's
That New Mexico team just fought all 4 quarters. I like that New Mexico team a lot. Just Jason Eck's a good coach. It's the FCS All-Stars they've got there. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Hey, we're recording this before any of the Sunday games. I think, I know there's hype around Miami. I feel very iffy about them without knowing how Cam Ward-ish based that team was last year. I feel like Notre Dame's going to handle that one.
And you're not the biggest Carson Beck guy either. I think seeing what he looks like against Notre Dame will be pretty interesting. But Notre Dame brings back a lot from a team that was getting better every week last year.
Played for a national title.
Yeah, and played for the national championship. So I think I think you should probably expect Notre Dame to win this game.
Yeah.
If Miami can show that they're able to punch at this level early on, because I feel pretty good about Notre Dame being a heavyweight.
Yeah.
I know it's tough to have certainty about anyone right now, and some of the preseason rankings look ridiculous after 1 week. But I think if Miami, I'm confident enough in Notre Dame that if Miami can hang with them early, they're going to be a problem for a lot of teams in the ACC.
100%. I wonder if Auburn might sneak into the rankings this week. I'm interested to seeing if that's the case, because they got it. It is a quality road win. Like, if you're going for who got really good wins this week, that's a quality road win. Auburn would have to jump a handful, like a good number of teams in the AP poll, but I mean, Boise State lost. So
Florida State would be another team that
Kansas State might drop out.
I think Florida State would have a pretty good argument for inclusion in the top 25 after that win. Curious to see who the voters move out of the top 25. And
it's definitely going to be Boise.
I think,
Boise. That was alarming.
Yep, yeah, that is, for a team that folks thought, I think there was a belief that they were the top mid-major.
It was them versus the field for a lot of people for the playoff spot.
Yeah, I would have tried to lobby for Tulane maybe for inclusion in that mix.
Yeah.
And
By the way, did you see what happened with the Tulane thing?
Yeah, and I'm of two minds on this, because I really like John Sumrall, and I of course am all for any effort to celebrate the city of New Orleans. I can understand from the Northwestern perspective not wanting to wear dark jerseys in New Orleans.
Yeah, but it didn't save you.
It did not save. No, but I can understand pregame.
But if you're doing it there's a reason. They're not trying to take advantage of something there.
Sure, I know. But in Louisiana Heat, I can understand wanting to wear your white jerseys if you're Northwestern.
Which maybe made it so weird that Baylor went with the shiny helmets and the black jerseys.
I agree
for that game.
We'll keep in mind though, for non-conference games there has to be agreement.
Yeah, right.
So like Auburn would have had to agree to wear the blue jerseys.
No, I'm just saying black.
Oh, sure.
Black with the shiny reflective helmets in that heat was a choice.
And I know they were doing a blackout, and if you're doing a blackout, you probably should.
And they're doing the mid 2010s tribute. The Sean Oakman game.
Just as same way that for Auburn, I believe there should be an SEC game at home every year where it's a whiteout with white jerseys. You have the option in conference to wear your whites at home whenever you want. Like, that should be something Auburn does.
Yeah, because that's how LSU gets to do it.
Exactly. But non-conference, there has to be agreement, which is where this Northwestern and Tulane thing comes from, because Northwestern said, no, we're not wearing our dark jerseys at home.
And they got
no, we're not wearing our dark jerseys in New Orleans. And Tulane
said, fine.
There isn't a mid-major coach who looks more ready to take over and win than John Sumrall. Like, there's not somebody who, tell you what, understands.
Kentucky might be running to the finish line there.
I think he could wait for a better job than Kentucky if he wants.
Yeah, he definitely could, but he has that connection there.
I know he's a Kentucky guy, but there could be better programs than Kentucky, thinking, John Sumrall's shown you a lot and knows the South and knows the lay of the land and is a young guy for the industry. Like, I think John Sumrall.
He'd be a heck of an Arkansas coach.
I think
I think Arkansas was going to be fine this year, but like when it was hot seat talk time in Arkansas.
I think John Sumrall's got an incredibly bright future, and 100%. You saw another glimpse of it on Saturday.
All right, it's a marathon episode to get this one started. It's week one. We always do this. A lot of fun. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. AuburnObserver.com. If you're not subscribed, you can get the film room. You can get all the newsletters. We can put a bow on this. We did our sale, and we got last time I checked, it was more than 120 new subscribers in the last month. So hi, welcome. Still a great time to join. AuburnObserver.com, $6 a month, $60 a year. I will tell you this. This was a development that happened while we were recording this podcast.
Oh, do I know about this?
No, you don't.
Oh, wow.
I have been informed that the three gentlemen known as the Friends of the Program are getting back on the mic very soon.
Oh, wow.
I think they were compelled to do so after the events of the weekend across this great sport. So, yeah.
Brace yourselves.
And that is a subscribers-only episode, so get behind the paywall if you want it. Got some more stuff coming up. I am in the process of lining up Establish It stickers to make their return. I did say that online. I also have another surprise up my sleeve. this might be something we don't get to send out until later in the football season, but they are in the works. Stickers are in the works, so you can get that as well. Also, still got a spot or two available in the Painter Sharpless Memorial Scholarship Fund. So if you're an Auburn student, you're a freshman starting off this year, or you know an Auburn freshman who just started off and got to start off with a win, by the way. Good work by the freshman class. Hit me up, and you can get a year to the Observer for free, courtesy of some of our beloved subscribers. Dan, to wrap up, let's talk Texas. Let's talk travel, because people like it when we talk about our journeys. We had two very different types of trips to Texas. We both flew there. I stayed in the DFW area.
And one of us took a horse.
Yes. I stayed in the DFW area. Was in Arlington and went there and back. My only experience in Waco was the stadium and the game. So
I got friends in suburban Waco. So I stayed.
Chip and Joanna games.
I stayed at their place. Yeah. I stayed.
I love the first thing I saw walking into the stadium was the big Magnolia sponsorship in the end zone.
Yeah, it was a fantastic little bed and breakfast. No, I got to. I got to enjoy a little bit of what Waco has to offer. Went to a Tex-Mex place, little mezclarita, action on
Nice.
on Thursday night. Went to the Dr. Pepper Museum on
Currently
Friday,
wearing the shirt, yeah.
which is really interesting. Tells you about the history of Dr. Pepper on the first floor. How it was invented. Sort of just in general, how soda became part of. How
what is it? What was the Vim?
Vim Vigor and
Vitality.
Vitality
That might be the podcast episode title. It's either that or we have to talk about it. It's something to do with the steakhouse, like steak, beef, something along those lines.
Running of the Bulls is what it might have been, but it was you had a
moving cattle,
rawhide.
Yeah.
Rawhide might be. We're
it might be Rawhide.
We're brainstorming on it.
Are you going to do the Rawhide theme as the outro? I think we're landing on that one.
Maybe the Blues Brothers, action could be could be showing up. But so the Dr. Pepper talks about how soda became sort of a thing in America and how Dr. Pepper sort of established itself. Second floor, all advertising history.
That's what I would
yeah,
really enjoyed.
I mean, and there's so many brands in the Keurig Dr. Pepper family that sharing the 7-Up ads and the Hawaiian Punch ads and the Snapple. Like there's all these.
You informed me that Big Red exists, which I know, but there's also a Big Blue.
Oh, if there's like a family picture of all the brands owned by that company now.
Right.
And there are some shockers in there, including Rose's Grenadine. Like there are some that I'm like, oh, that's
really,
yeah. I'm like, wow, like real lemon juice and Rose's Grenadine and stuff like that are in the KDP family. But it's and also like a Big Red and Big Blue and
7-Up,
Squirt. Squirt is so I mean they've got their they got their hands in all kinds of different beverages, and the Dr. Pepper Museum was outstanding.
Yeah.
Waco has In-N-Out Burger, so I got to indulge in that at least once.
You went to Brahms.
Hit up and I wasn't all that hungry and I had a flight, so it was like I had like a kid's cheeseburger but I did get to look the thing about Brahms is the burgers are good for a fast food place.
Yeah.
The star of the show is the ice cream.
Yes.
Star of the show is the dairy.
Yep.
That's worth a stop if you ever see a Brahms. There's one between Waco and Dallas. They're more. I believe Norman has like it's a big Oklahoma thing. So if you make the trip in a couple of weeks, be
oh yeah, man, I go when I'm in Arkansas.
Be on the lookout. But yeah, grabbed stopped in there. And then
what'd you think of Waco? I have no experience in Waco outside of the stadium.
So I didn't do a ton. I mean, it's a big city. That's the thing that I think folks might be a little surprised by too. Is like, I mean, it's I think nearly 200,000 people live in Waco, and there are a bunch of cities in Texas where it's like, how many people are you talking about? So
this is like an Athens size city.
Yeah, it's a big spread out city, but in my limited my limited exposure to it, I thought it was there's some really interesting corners, and
it's about the same size as Waco,
and
as
some
Athens.
and some excellent. I mean, look, we go to Texas. You got to look for some barbecue. You got to look for some Tex-Mex. I was told the Waco barbecue is not its strong suit compared to some other cities, but there were some excellent Tex-Mex places, and I got to sample one of them. I went to Maria's, by the way, which was outstanding.
So in Arlington, I stayed next door to Six Flags, but it wasn't open when I was there, which is sad. I went to a card shop, which was right across the street. That was cool. But I will say the star of the show, the barbecue being the star of the show for this trip, Hurtado. They're on the top 50 of the Texas Monthly, have been for a while. They do that fusion Mexican and brisket game.
Got to go to Hurtado when UT Arlington was in the Sun Belt because there's one right off campus, and it's great.
It's spectacular.
Unbelievable.
It was so. I went with a gang of Auburn beat writers, and our travel partners Jason Caldwell and Nathan King, good friends at Auburn 247 that I tag along with for trips. They got like the big like share it plate with like all the different meats, like a sampling of all the different meats and the sides. And so I got to try
the Royal Sampler.
It was, really good. But so I went up there and I was like, look, I could get a plate with like brisket and all that, and I could get sides, and I could do the traditional barbecue thing. I could do that, right? And I would probably have a really good time with it. But I was told going in that they make a birria taco with brisket, and I was like, well, I got to get one of those. And so when I got one of those, I was looking up at the board and I was like, what if I just mix and matched like their specialty items and kind of not worry about sides or anything like that and just get like a variety of things? And so that was my move. They were supposed to have a big red braised barbacoa, and they were out, which was disappointing because that would have been a really good taco.
That's very Texas.
They had what they call a Texas Twinkie, which is a jalapeno stuffed with brisket, pimento cheese, cream cheese, wrapped in bacon and, smoked up. Very, very good. I don't even like pimento cheese, and I thought it was excellent. The star of the show there, and the burrito was really good. Birria taco was top notch. Every now and then you go to a place and you're like, I don't think I'll ever have anything quite like that anywhere else, so I need to like savor this. Hurtado had Mexican cornbread, and what their Mexican cornbread was, they made cornbread, like a good sweet cornbread, stuffed with brisket, cheese, peppers, and then covered in honey. Dan, when I tell you that I'm going to be thinking about that cornbread for the rest of my life, I am
trying to get the recipe right. You're gonna.
I don't think I could do it. Like it was spectacular. I would go there and just eat that.
That sounds fantastic.
It was so good. It was so very good. So they had a lot of great stuff there. Hurtado, if you're ever in the DFW area, they have a few locations. It rocked. But yeah, I guess it all comes full circle though. I just went there and got a lot of meat because the story of this whole trip, just pushing beef all over the place.